Dune, 50th anniversary edition. 529 pages. Took me most of February to read it. Oh. Appendices. I'll not do it. I'll not read it. Yeah, quite a big book. Right, let's talk about Dune. Okay, so it's a big book and massive world building, so a lot to get through. And so first things first. So, full disclosure, this should be for people who have read the book. So it's like a discussion. I know it might be one way, but you'll be able to put your comments down. So if you've not read it and you want to read it yourself, look away now, because this is going to be more than a spoiler. And second thing, it's I've seen a couple of people. It's an iconic book, and people have put perhaps put this book on a bit of a pedestal, and you kind of feel a bit of a pressure not to criticize it. But if you look up the word criticism, so I'm definitely going to be making some criticisms along the way. So if that's going to make you mad, well then that's if you don't want to listen to a criticism, then that's fine, isn't it? Okay, so yeah. Now I'm really glad that I've read this book. Very, very glad. It's given me quite a bit to think about, and definitely plenty to talk about. Yeah, okay. So if I'd have read this at perhaps the age 17, I think I would have had a different experience than now. I've seen the film. You get to know about Dune and the worms, even if you've never read it. So here goes. Now, a really interesting thing happened to me when I started to read it, and I thought about why. It might be because I've read a lot of non-fiction, strategy books, finance books, philosophy books. So reading those, you kind of pull everything apart. Is this true? Does that work? Does that make sense? Have I seen that before? What does it connect to? Can I make use of it? So, starting to read Dune, that slicing mind got to work, and it was just immediately. It was hard work. He's got that from yoga. He's got that from Hinduism. He's nicked that name off Julius Caesar. Lords and ladies, all right, so that's kind of like Western society structure. And hang on, that technology, how ridiculous is that? So it was like, whoa. So I had a little word with myself and said a couple of things. Firstly, if thoughts came in, always pinch that from Hinduism, to just go, all right, yeah, go with the flow, and not kind of get too hung up on it. And the technology to be, a bit forgiving, because it was written 50 years ago. So technology is a difficult thing to write about. So be a little bit gentle on that. It's their world. They do things differently over there. And I said, just let the characters develop, the politics and the action. Yeah. So, now, like most people have said, the world building for a book is, half of the book is kind of laying the foundation for all the other books that are going to follow from it. So, some of the criticisms of the book that I've got, can kind of perhaps be defended that way. Now, the first thing that I'll say. I said quite a few so far. The yeah, so what it was a bit like was like a casserole. There's in this world creation, there was everything in from everywhere. Like I say, so that's Hinduism, that's Roman history, that's the Greeks. That's sci-fi, that's environmentalism. That's a bit of Western politics. So there was everything in there. Now, if you're creating a new world, there's three things that can happen. You can create something completely new, which is almost impossible. And if I think of the book, nothing comes to mind. Giant worms. Well, it's kind of based on worms, isn't it? So, it's difficult to create something completely new because you'd have to describe it and how it would fit in. So it's almost impossible. Then you've got things that are kind of purloined, like I say. That's a bit of Hinduism, or that's a bit of Buddhism, or that's twisting things around. And some of those things my brain finds annoying. So they go on a thopter rather than a helicopter. That's annoying, just is. And other things will just randomly appear. It's like, oh, they've got coffee. I've got no idea where they grow it on this sand planet. But they've got coffee. They don't have tea. And they don't have much water. So it's kind of like, all right, fair enough, you got coffee. Oh, there's bats. Oh, there's bats on this planet. Where did they come from? So that's kind of, right, okay, just let it happen. So, they were kind of minor frustrations about what's there and what's not. Now, just a word on that world building. It's strange to kind of criticise the world building, which is what it's famous for. But I had this thought. There's a famous English cartoon, or British cartoon if you want, Danger Mouse, and they set a lot of the action in the Arctic because they didn't have a budget. And I just get a little bit of a feeling that Dune is a little bit like that. We're going to put it on this planet and there is nothing there. So if someone walks into a room, there's a tapestry and that's it. They don't get past the mug. There's no books. There's nothing there. It's kind of a bit of a Danger Mouse thing. They walk down a corridor. There's hardly even any lights in a corridor. It's just kind of like, so yeah, which is very, very, very strange. There is nothing there. Oh, here's a cave. All right, fine, fair enough. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, they moved to this planet from another planet, and they just take two things: a portrait on one wall and some bull's head or something on the other with blood on the tips, and that's it. They're not. If you've ever moved house, it's a bit different to that, isn't it? So yeah, right. So that's kind of quite funny. Right, okay. So on to the politics and the characters. I'm gonna say my major criticism straight off. Paul Atreides is the hero in the book. Why? What I mean is why am I supposed to like the Atreides and not like the Harkonnens, their enemy? The Harkonnens, oh yeah, they're the baddies. They're just vying for control over this planet. Paul ends up going to the free men, but he just says, I'm using them to get back in power. So it's kind of, why am I supposed to like Paul Atreides and not the Harkonnens? So I can't buy into him. To me, that's my main criticism of it. So, that might be sacrilegious, but it's just kind of like, why am I supposed to like Paul Atreides? Yeah, don't get it. Now the other kind of criticisms is, when, if you're my second major criticism, in if I'm putting on hold, criticisms of the world building and how things slot together, then the other thing is all the way through the book is these fight scenes are discussed, and they are a massive disappointment because it happens off screen. So the first major fight scene is they go to this planet and the Harkonnens, they're just allowed this planet. They're just allowed it. So the Emperor says, you can go on it. And then the Emperor helps the Harkonnens just go and wipe them all out. That's a bit strange, but go with it. And they're there. These people are supposedly scared for their life that these Harkonnens are going to come and get them. But they're taken in a sneak surprise. And all these Atreides, apart from one or two who get the chop that you see, but not really, all these Atreides, ace fighters, leg it into a tunnel, into caves, and they just, no one saw it coming that they'd use artillery shells. So they're all dead. It's kind of like, oh, well, that was a bit quick, wasn't it? Not quite Battle of the Stalingrad, taking years around the tractor factory. It's just bang, cave, done. They're all gone, the Atreides, apart from Paul. But we're supposed to like the Atreides, but he's a Harkonnen. Oh my word! All right, fine, fair enough. We're supposed to let that plot point slip. The Harkonnens are baddies. Oh, I'm a Harkonnen. Oh, shh. Oh, that's it. That's funny. But so then the end of the book, it's building up to this giant fight where the Paul's taken over the Freemen, and they're going to take on the Harkonnens off screen. So, I saw one YouTuber's channel, and they were kind of like, it was a bit of a long book, and I was, building up to this fight scene at the end, and it didn't quite happen, but perhaps it would be happening in the next book. Just say it, Frank. You let us down. There's no big fight scene. None. So that is a bit disappointing. Maybe in book 2, book 3, whatever, I don't know. So that's a major criticism of Dune. You talk about this great big fight, and then it's kind of like, right, now the other kind of difficulty that you have when writing something like this, if you give people special powers, so what? First, we'll go on about the fighting. The fighting, I think, is like some of the weakest things in the book. You got all the world built in, skin suits, nostril stuff, scars, great world building. You sweat, it goes into the suit, and you drink it. Happy days. Yeah, very, very clever. Really good. But the difficulty you have, if you say, right, so Paul and his mum, he's a young kid, 15, and his mum, they're in a thopter. Two people are taking them and they're supposed to kill them. And there's jeopardy because these two people are going to kill him. And his mum's a poor weedy female and he's only 15. So you that's the jeopardy. But then she has got special powers. She can read and warp minds, or it's all a bit cloudy. So, and then she then dominates them. All right, fine, fair enough. So, should there have been jeopardy then? If you can, there's jeopardy. No, there's not jeopardy. So that's the difficulty in the jeopardy. It happens again. So they're in a set of. So they then take over that. They're in this thopter, annoying, and they decide to go from one set of rocks to another set of rocks because it looks a bit green over there or something. You might see a bit of green. So for some reason they set off, so they have to go across Worm Country, and they're heading towards the Freemen. Now these Freemen, these people are the business they're the world's best fight. They're the Dune world's best fighters. They're not in charge. They're the lowest rung, and there's millions of them secretly, but they can't take over because they need a leader, perhaps. So Paul and his mum walk across the desert to these other set of rocks. They're in these rocks, and the jeopardy is that these free men are about, and they could kill them like they're in their sleep. Yeah, in their sleep. But then they get jumped, and then Paul's mother, what is it, Jack, Jill, Judith, something like that. Paul's mother then use the weirding way, which I think that's nicked from Druid culture. Uses the weirding way. And he's like, ooh, the leader is suddenly scared to death. Ooh, you're going to have to, we'll take you in if you teach us the weirding way. So this weedy woman is now the master fighter, but then she's not the master fighter. So that's frustrating. So yeah, she dominates these Dune people who are killer fighters, and she could be this mysterious, religious-y type of person. Then Paul's challenged to this duel. Oh no, jeopardy. He could get chopped. Because of course they could have just walked up to him. That was the jeopardy. Then walking across, gone. Then he beats this killer fighter in unarmed combat. Well, unarmed combat, daggers or whatever it is. Skiff knives or something. So he beats him in that. Right. Okay. So then, hang on. He's a great fighter now. Then he gets given this chap's wife and 2 kids. One from a previous murder. So one was a step kid, and another from the person who he killed, and that's all fine. That's the Sandman's, free man's way. You kill him, you get his wife, you get his kids. Fair enough. So he's a bit concerned that these 2 kids are not going to like him, but they just turn up, and they're then his personal guard. Because they think he's the business. He's the man, Paul. Never met him before, never heard anything about him, but now he's the man, and they walk into this room and protect him, and they're never seen again. So, fair enough. Then it kind of jumps, and Paul teaches them about all these new weapons, and he is now a super fighter. He's a super fighter. So what happens? So he's this super fighter, and they're wanting him as this leader, this religious leader, because they've been waiting for this religious leader, and his mum and him just happened to say the right words at the right time, and mumbo jumbo, hocus pocus, abracadabra. He said abracadabra. He's in charge. That's okay, fine. So he's now top bod, but it's all a bit sneaky, because to be top bod, he needs to kill this guy in the free man way, and he knows this. So it's kind of right. Okay, now that's wrong, because he's a good bloke, and why would I get rid of him? No, it's not the way. All the freemen say, you have to kill him. Oh! And he's like, I won't do it. And he says something along the lines of, look, I'm the business. I'm top dog. I could beat any of you in a fight. Who would like to challenge me? I will. If you want me to kill him, I won't. And if you say I should, I'll kill you. Okay, there's logic in there. Right? So killing him's bad. And if you think I should do it because it's your way, then me and you are fighting, and I'll kill you. And you know I will, because I'm top dog. I'm the greatest fighter by far. Okay, boss, we'll change our system. whether we're changing it for everybody or just for this guy, Stigler or something. So Stiggy gets to stick around, and that's the way, because killing him would be bad. Right, now let's go and kill all the Harkonnens. Okay, so that killing's bad, but this killing's good, because they're naughty boys, the Harkonnens. That's all totally fine. Okay, so then you get a problem doing that. If you then say that this guy is top notch in a fight, that's it. We don't have to fight. You just look at me. I'm a bigger bear than you. Take one look at me. Yeah. So at the end of the book, when we're supposed to have jeopardy, when he is in then a one-on-one fight with somebody, where's the jeopardy? He's the world's best fighter. He's the Dune world's best fighter. So where's there going to be a jeopardy in him having a one-off fight with somebody? So that's the problem. You know, that either they are or they aren't. And anyway, so yeah. Now, the other thing, we're not come to the worms yet. The other thing is the secret powers, which, again, this is what sets you up with this kind of hierarchy of difficulties. So Paul is the reason that they've chosen him as this religious cult leader is he can see the future. There's a ship. What's happening? There's a ship coming in the sky. There's 555 people in there. 3 regiments of this. 2 leaders. Blah, blah, blah. They'll turn up in 3 ships. They have. He can see the future. That's a miracle. So, you're then stuck, aren't you? So, his pal, one of his pals, his long-lost pal, just walks in. Just grabs his mother and puts a shifty knife to her neck. You take 1 step forward, I'm going to slice her neck. She's the one who grassed us up to the Harkonnens. What? Paul, I didn't see that timeline coming. I see the future. You don't see the future. You see nothing. There's going to be some massive jihad by these I was going to say Sandman, these free men. So a lot of blue-eyed people are going to take over the world. Who saw that coming? In a holy jihad. So he's not twisted the name of jihad. He's just gone for it with that. Jihad. Okay. So it's just, can he see the future? Oh, it's a bit cloudy. Oh, yeah. So that's a bit, for my logical brain, that is such hard going. Oh, hang on a minute. I thought I dreamt he had a knife on his right hip when it was his left. Oh, silly me. Yeah. So he can see the future, only he can't. And his mummy can see the future, only she can't either. Now, she's a very, very nice person, but she puts her son in jeopardy just in case he might be this magic man. She puts herself through this drug-induced spice thing. And she's pregnant and she's not told anybody. You didn't tell us. Oh, well, I suppose that was a bit naughty of me. Oh, I've given birth to a 2-year-old who can speak. And, but she's a goodie. She's not a witch. So there's witches in there as well in this casserole that he's put together. But they're not witches, but they call witches. But anyway. So she's 2 years old. Now she's really, really nice. And Frank tells us so at the end, after the big battle scene and the Harkonnens are kind of injured and dead on the battlefield, which we don't see and don't see the fight, she's very, very nice because she's 4 years old, this little whippersnapper thing, walking round with her shifty knife, killing the injured Harkonnens as a mercy because she's so nice. What? Yeah, and she's a magic fighter too at 4. So yeah, pushing it a bit there, Frank. Oh Lord, it's a lot to kind of hold in your brain, isn't it? So we go through all that. Now back to this big fight scene that we're waiting for. You know, when the Atreides that are really Harkonnens, but there's only him left, with the Freeman, have taken back the planet, probably, I think, with his mum and his daughter, who he sees in a dream, who are his enemies, but he still keeps them around. Why they're his enemies or not, but that's future plot line. Yeah, future plot line. His mum and his baby sister. Yeah. So at the end, he loves this. He's got this Dune woman who he's in love with, and there's no rumpy pumpy in there, so he'd be looking forward to that. There's none. They have a bit of a snog or two, and you know he loves her, but there's no real kind of. It's kind of a more. It's a bit more like a duty thing. You know, they're not kissing and cuddling all the time, what have you. And so what happens? Oh yeah, so they've had a kid and they called it Leto after the daddy who had the chop early on, which you know that was quite interesting. So what happened? Well, yeah, so there's that much. It's a big book. So they're heading to this fight scene again. The fight scenes that happen are kind of one-on-one combat. There's a couple of them, and I'm not so keen on these fight scenes. You know, they've got las guns, they've got all this technology, but they have to fight man to man. You know, with a knife. You know, and there's sneaky things in it. You know, he might have poison on his blade. You know, the nasty Harkonnens do nasty things like that. So there's all that technology, but they fight with knives. Perhaps it's an honour thing. I think it's an honour thing. So where am I with that? What was my point? Oh yeah. So yeah. So this suspending the disbelief thing. So they got the Emperor, and he was, you know, in his ship. They battered them all, and then they get them all lined up in front of Duke Paul. So Paul, with his gold ring, he's now in front of them all. So there's 500 of them left in front of him, including these Sardaukars who've had a bit of a battering by the Dune children. So they're all lined up in front of him, but they've all been searched top to bottom. They're 10 foot away from him, and there's 500 of them, and there isn't a poison dart among them, because they've all been strip searched completely in record time. Yeah, so they can't get Paul, even though it'd help their cause. So he's stood in front of them. Some guy challenges him to this combat, and then we're going to have this drama. Will he or won't he? And he's, with his future thinking, he can't quite figure out whether he's alive or dead. Or something. So he's in this fight with somebody. Now they've been strip searched, but this person has got a couple of sneaky things, like not a poison, but a kind of a sleepy type of drug. Even though Paul, if he gets a drug in him, can like his mum, he can molecularly change the poison to make it nice and like fruit juice or something. So, you know, there's that. So it might slow him down a little bit. Now, the other thing is, he can't. That this guy has then got like a pointy thing on his hip that might get him. So 500 people have been strip searched top to bottom for no poison darts. Yet we get the pleasure of a kind of a bit of a roll around, but he's got this sneaky thing on his hip. So that kind of stuff's a bit hard work. Right, now, oh God, this it's such a big book, so sorry for prattling on. Um, you can't make a good casserole without worms. So on to the worms. So the worms are just like the best horror type books, are best like Jaws, like Frankenstein's monster. They're better and more terrifying when they're off screen. So yeah, it's these giant worms, and they can devour. Well, they can devour anything, and you can't walk in a straight line across sand because these things, they'll have you. But the Freeman can secretly ride them, which is great. Paul has to go and ride one, and it's the giantest, biggest one that you've ever seen. And then they ride it about a bit. That kind of just tails off into nothing. So the worms will probably make another appearance elsewhere. Okay, so it's been a massive long ramble. And I apologise to those people who don't. Well, no, there's no point apologising to people who love Dune and don't like it to be picked apart. So I don't apologise. Yeah, that'd be wrong of me. Is it? So here's a final thought, and it's a passing thought. So before that, I'll just say it's a fantastic book. I'd really recommend reading it. I really would, with the caveats that the fight scenes are happen off screen. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, then yeah, the main characters, I'm not that keen on Paul Atreides, really. He's not the world's greatest hero, is he? So it's kind of it's a lot of stuff, and yeah. So so here's a kind of a strange final thought. When I was at Polytechnic, and it's now been gloriously renamed university, so they can charge a lot more. The course that I was on, they had people who came to study from abroad, and I had this French friend for a while, Patrick, nice guy. And it's always interesting meeting people from different cultures. Just just think things that your culture doesn't kind of think about. And there was some music on. It was a tape, back when they had tapes, and it was a 60s song. And Patrick heard it. He said, "Oh, this is a good song." I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he said, "Is it? I don't recognise it. Is it the Beatles?" And I said, "No, it's the Kinks. A really good band, the Kinks." And he said, "Oh, right." He said, and then he said the strangest thing. And I said, "Oh, so do you want to find out about the Kinks and their other songs?" And he just said, "No." I said, "What? But you like the sound?" He said, "I only need the Beatles." He said, "They sound similar to the Beatles, so I don't need to listen to those. I can just listen to the Beatles." I thought that this was, kind of awful. The poor Kinks, either they don't get listened to, or if they do get listened to, they're just attributed to the Beatles. That's the Beatles sound. And I'm just wondering, with all those recommendations out there for Dune, as to whether it's kind of become synonymous with a time period, a science fiction writing, whether it's kind of, coalesced around that, and whether there's hundreds and thousands of other books out there that of science fiction that are equally good, if not better in many ways, but it all just coalesces around Dune. Just a thought. So there's my thoughts. So in case you didn't realise, there's a few spoilers in there. Excellent book. Really recommend reading it. And that's my thoughts. See you on the next one, if you can forgive me.